2,000 years ago. In 250 AD, the plague of Cyprian struck the city of Carthage in North Africa. Incredibly contagious, it caused infected victims to ooze blood from every orifice, just like Ebola virus, and killed off half the population. But just as quickly as it appeared, the plague seemed to disappear completely from the planet.
If Ebola is present on Earth in the 3rd century and it then disappears all the way through to the 1970s, if it isn't somewhere hiding on Earth, is it possible that it was out in space itself, perhaps on a comet, and that this is the reason why it returned on a comet itself to rain down more misery on humanity?
Was the virus that we know as Ebola really dormant for nearly 20 centuries? Or was it deliberately sent to Earth not once, but twice? As far as ancient astronaut theorists are concerned, the answer is obvious. And as proof, they point to accounts concerning another of history's worst plagues, the Black Death.
What's interesting about these accounts is that they seem to have originated after something strange was seen up in the sky. For example, they saw this black shield travel across, and then it is also described that this black dust came off that particular object.
Also, in the wheat fields, they reported these strange figures holding some type of device, like a sickle. Some people feel today these reports were some types of extraterrestrials causing the disease.
Ironically, with half the population gone, those who survived the plague enjoyed twice the wealth and natural resources of the previous generation. They also had much stronger immune systems. So could this have been part of some deliberate extraterrestrial plan? Ancient astronaut theorists believe that such an audacious notion is possible.
If you're an alien culture and you're seeing Earth overpopulating to the point where the planet can't sustain the population, what do we do with animals in the wild? We cull them. What if these plagues were alien cultures culling us?
So these could actually be designer viruses, designer bacteria that are sent here to kill people with specific genetic weaknesses and make the rest of the gene pool that much stronger.
But if extraterrestrials are trying to cull our population or strengthen our genetic makeup through the introduction of microbes, why? Some ancient astronaut theorists suspect that the ultimate objective is to make us more like them. Paris, France, July 2013. Scientists announced the discovery of an entirely new class of extremely large microbes called Pandora viruses. Up to 94% of the Pandora virus genome has nothing in common with any other life form on Earth.
These very large viruses, the Pandora viruses, they have a very high frequency of genes that basically don't correspond to any other genes in other organisms that we know of.
While seemingly alien, Pandora viruses do share one thing in common with all life on Earth: DNA. Those who endorse panspermia say that this supports a key part of their hypothesis, namely that all life in the universe is based on DNA, and therefore that life on Earth is closely related to life everywhere.
If DNA is present throughout space, and we are a product of that DNA, and that other species elsewhere in the galaxy are also the result of the same DNA, then very clearly there's some kind of symbiotic relationship between all of us.
If all life in the universe is based on DNA, then aliens would be closely related to humans. Is this why abductees report that their alien abductors are so interested in human genetic material.
Many abductees have talked about how they were taken on board UFOs and subjected to medical experimentation. Witnesses talk about blood, sperm, eggs being removed from their bodies.
It's very possible that an alien intelligence is tinkering with our DNA to try to make us more compatible to them. And that perhaps one day the two species will unite. And they will no longer be our gods, but we will be the rebels.
If aliens are using these microbes to make us more like them, then obviously we're going to start to show signs of that sort of genetic, physical evolution. In other words, our testosterone levels should go down. We're going to become more frail. We're probably going to become more androgynous. Our intelligence is going to be spiked.
Some point out that these changes are happening already.
There are trends in the evolution of human beings right now. Sperm counts are going down. Sperm counts are going down, by the way, as the world's population is crashing through 8 billion to 10 billion.
Maybe we'll become more like the aliens. And perhaps that means that we're actually more compatible with them genetically if that path is the one that's laid out. So you could actually look at the development of higher intelligence as, again, kind of a genetic Trojan horse that eventually leads us to a point where it's far easier for us to be crossed genetically with alien species.
Could human beings be the subjects of an ingenious bioengineering project conducted by extraterrestrials? Ancient astronaut theorists believe that not only is the answer yes, but that this process, while at times painful, will ultimately benefit humanity. But they also warn that the extraterrestrials may have another agenda, one that doesn't benefit us, but them. June 6th, 2019. The scientific journal Current Biology reports that biologists at the University of Rochester have solved the mystery of the pea aphid, a tiny sap-sucking insect that is normally wingless, but periodically develops wings when it needs to seek out new plants to colonize. What they found is that the genes that form the on-off switch for wings belong to a virus, the genome of which has become fully incorporated into that of its host. The researchers suggest that while this is beneficial to the aphid, it is actually the virus that induces wing development in order to spread itself around. Similarly, it was also found in 2019 that many wasps carry a virus that increases their longevity, enabling the virus to be spread further.
Viruses sort of straddle our concepts of living or non-living because they require a host in order to reproduce themselves and also to carry out any life functions. So they can't metabolize, or they have to rely on a host cell to do that and to make copies of themselves as well.
On its own, a virus is inert. It only comes to life and is able to reproduce once it comes in contact with a host. Like the viruses themselves, if extraterrestrials are altering humans, is it perhaps to further their own species? Are they slowly transforming us into new incarnations of themselves, not to advance humankind, but their own kind? Perhaps. But some ancient astronaut theorists suggest that, as is the case with the aphid and also the wasp, this process might be mutually beneficial.
One theory is that these extraterrestrial visitors, they are a dying race, and that they are injecting new genetic material which will help save them. Another related theory is, let's take human DNA, let's take alien DNA, and let's create something even better.
I think that humankind has been part of a eternal guess is as good as mine.
If we find that viruses do come from space, then we know that because there is a relationship between viruses and evolution, this is something that must be universal, something that connects us with every other possible life source everywhere out there in the universe.
Is it possible that the history of disease on our planet is not only a human story, but an extraterrestrial one? As far as ancient astronaut theorists are concerned, the answer is a profound yes. And if such a notion is true, they insist that these so-called alien infections are not meant to destroy us, but to serve as a kind of inoculation, a preparation for the day when mankind comes face to face with its alien relatives. Thousands of claims of alien abductions.
People are reporting the extraterrestrials are harvesting genetic material from humans.
Animals mutilated with surgical precision.
What we know is that something is harvesting body parts, blood, and DNA.
Are aliens performing genetic experimentation here on planet Earth?
Other intelligences can mix and match any gene they want and hybridize again.
The question which remains is, if extraterrestrials have made hybrids, why? What for?
And if extraterrestrials are engaged in creating alien-human hybrids, could it signal the end of humankind?
Perhaps more hybrids are being created right now in order to continue this extraterrestrial evolution.
There is a doorway in the universe. Beyond it is the promise of truth. It demands we question everything we have ever been taught. The evidence is all around us. The future is right before our eyes. We are not alone. We have never been alone. Luzon Island, the Philippines. 2019. Archaeologists announced the discovery of an entirely new relative of the human species, Luzonensis. Found in a large limestone cave, the remains of Homo luzonensis date back 67,000 years. Without a land bridge to mainland Asia, this strange species arose isolated from other hominid species.
So I think when you look at the evolution of humanity and the different species that have existed throughout time, early on we had a pretty simple story. We split from chimpanzees and monkeys. The Homo sapien ancestors developed, and you end up with Homo sapien, and we're the ones that are left. As we do more research in archaeology, we're discovering a wide range of different hominids. One of them is the Homo luzonensis. And one of the interesting things about it is the structures of some of the bones are sufficiently different that it is a different species.
In addition to Homo luzonensis, other ancient human-like species are continually being discovered, like the Denisovans in Siberia and the hobbit-like Homo floresiensis in Indonesia.
Given the great diversity of the number of different species, how is it that Homo sapiens sapien ended up the only one left?
Although scientists now believe that at least 8 human-like species once walked the Earth, only Homo sapiens survived. But why? The answer remains one of archaeology's greatest mysteries.
Could it be possible that this survival, or the reason why Homo sapiens has survived to this day, is due to an extraterrestrial interference?
Are what we're looking at here failed experiments, prototypes? Are we just the latest experiment? Were there previously other branches of the human family that were themselves either created or enhanced, but which didn't quite make the grade?
Is it possible that extraterrestrial intervention could explain the existence of multiple hominid species on Earth and the fact that only Homo sapiens have survived into the modern era? Ancient astronaut theorists suggest that evidence to support this hypothesis can be found in the historical records of the earliest known civilizations, and in particular, the Sumerian stories of the Anunnaki, also called the Guardians of the Sky.
In ancient Sumerian texts, they talk about the Anunnaki, who were described as being able to fly, having elongated heads, and also being very wise and bringing knowledge and science. It's often said that the Anunnaki were specifically involved in genetic experimentation. And so here we have the story of extraterrestrials genetically engineering people starting around 6000 BC, although I suspect it must go back much further than that.
In order to keep their territory, they made hybrids. They made hybrids that would extend the Anunnaki bloodline into standing up primates that would carry out their territory, their bloodline.
What you can find with many of these depictions of these ancient gods is they're described either with wings or they're depicted inside flying animals or flying machines. And whoever visited ancient Sumeria, those same guys visited elsewhere around the planet. Because, for example, present-day Teotihuacan, there actually are statues that have been found that are uncannily similar to statues that have been found in present-day ancient Sumeria.
Light species like Neanderthal and Homo lucenensis represent failed attempts by alien visitors to create hybrids of themselves from earthly primates. And could there have been other, even stranger creatures that resulted from their experimentation? Mosul, Iraq, 1845. While excavating the ancient ruins of the Assyrian capital city of Nimrud, famed English archaeologist Austin Henry Laird unearths an amazing stone covered with detailed carvings. Dating to 825 BC, the black limestone obelisk commemorates the deeds of King Shalmaneser III. Curiously, depicted alongside his military conquests and various offerings made to him are strange hybrid creatures.
The black obelisk of Shalmaneser III is incredibly fascinating because as far as hybrid beings are concerned, what we have here are creatures half animal, half human. Some with a human head with then an animal body. And what's so interesting is the fact that the artist was very clear in depicting something, and that is that some of these creatures are held with a rope and one even with a chain. Now, did these creatures actually walk around here on Earth? And frankly, I would not be surprised if that's what happened, because the basic tenet of the ancient astronaut theory is manipulation artificially of genetic material.
Hybrid creatures abound in mythological traditions all over the world, and in many cases, they are part human. The ancient Greeks wrote about the centaur, half human, half horse. In Hindu mythology, the Naga are often depicted as serpentine creatures with human heads, while the Egyptian god Horus a falcon head and a human body. Even in the Quran, the flying horse that was said to have flown Muhammad from Mecca to Jerusalem had a human face.
By natural evolution, hybrids can never have existed. If hybrids existed, then there must be genetical design behind it. Our ancestor in Egypt also had no genetical designs, but we had the hybrids. You can prove it in the literature, you can prove it in the sculptures, which still exist worldwide, especially in Egypt. The question which remains is, if extraterrestrials have made hybrids, why? What for?
Could the black obelisk of Shalmaneser III and countless other depictions around the world be a physical record that hybrids have existed throughout history? And if so, is there an alien hybridization project that continues to be carried out even today? Perhaps further clues can be found by examining the bizarre and gruesome phenomenon of animal mutilation. Moscow, the Soviet Union, February 1954. At the Institute of Experimental Clinical Surgery, organ transplantation pioneer Vladimir Demikov conducts a potentially groundbreaking and highly controversial experiment. He transplants a dog's head onto the torso of another dog using vascular connections to the host dog's heart. The procedure is a success, and over the next 5 years, Demikov performs several more head transplants.
As far as these experiments are concerned, what they demonstrated was that scientists now had the potential to quite literally play God by mixing human DNA with animal DNA, creating, if you like, sort of chimeras.
Looking back on Demikov's efforts more than 50 years later, they may seem like the work of a mad scientist. But surgeons today have gone even further, actually merging animals with humans. In 2003, Chinese scientist Wei Zhenshan fused human cells with rabbit eggs, resulting in the first human-animal hybrids created through genetic engineering. In 2004, researchers at Minnesota's Mayo Clinic created pigs with human blood flowing through their bodies. And in 2018, Chinese scientist He Xionghui used a powerful new gene editing technique called CRISPR to create the world's first genetically edited human babies, Lulu and Nana.
It's basically molecular scissors that also do a cut exactly where you want to cut and puts the new pieces that you want into the DNA. So as we learn how to map out DNA, as we learn what the different genes are, we finally have the tool that would allow us to design the genes in certain ways.
In recent years, some scientists have even proposed that building upon Vladimir Demikov's experiments with dogs, transplants of human heads may soon become a reality. But for ancient astronaut theorists, all of these animal-human hybrid experiments are nothing new. In fact, they are eerily reminiscent of the depictions of hybrid creatures found on numerous ancient carvings, like those on the obelisk of King Shalmaneser III, that seem to show stitches around the necks of what appear to be human-faced dogs.
I sometimes wonder if what we're doing now was also done tens and tens of thousands of years ago in different parts of the world, and possibly that could have led to the creation of these multiple different types of early humans.
Is it possible that the discovery of other human-like species that once roamed the Earth, as well as ancient depictions of hybrid creatures, provides evidence that thousands of years ago, extraterrestrials performed genetic experiments similar to those being conducted by scientists today? According to ancient astronaut theorists, not only did this happen in the past, but the disturbing phenomenon suggests that what they refer to as an alien hybridization project is still underway. San Luis Valley, Colorado, 1967. On the King family ranch, a horse named Lady is found dead in a pasture. The skull is stripped so clean of flesh that it appears to have been exposed to the elements for weeks.